next question. We seem to be having a race war in America, at least on a political level. Is there anything in the Bible that talks about this issue? And as Christians, how do we approach the issue in love?
Well, is there anything in the Bible? My favorite passage on race is actually in a little altercation that Moses' sister had with Moses. Actually, it's Moses and Aaron. And what had happened was apparently Moses' wife had died, Zipporah, and he's getting remarried. And he remarries an Ethiopian woman. And this is out of Numbers chapter 12. It says, "Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. So they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very humble, more than all the men who were on the face of the earth. And suddenly the Lord said to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, come out, you three, to the tabernacle of meeting. So the three came out. And the Lord came down in the pillar of cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both went forward. And he said, hear now my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He's faithful in all my house, and I speak to him face to face, even plainly and not in dark sayings. And he sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? So the anger of the Lord was aroused against them, and he departed. And when the cloud departed from above the tabernacle, suddenly Miriam became leprous, as white as snow. Then Aaron turned toward Miriam, and there she was, a leper. And so, I like that, because, people from Ethiopia, they're pretty much they would have been the same back then as they are now. And people from Ethiopia have very dark skin. And so this is a black woman, and Moses is interested in her, and he marries her. We don't get her name, but he marries an Ethiopian woman, and apparently Miriam's a little bit ticked off about that whole thing. It looks like Miriam's a racist in that passage. And so basically what God does is he goes, well, you like white, I'll make you white. And so he made her leprous, as white as snow. And then the Bible says that Aaron goes to Moses and intercedes and says, Moses, and basically Moses goes and prays before the Lord. And the Lord says, if her father had spit in her face, she'd be outside the camp for 7 days. And so she's going to be unclean for 7 days, and then God heals her. But it's a great object lesson. And, when you look at race, as far as what we call race, whether you're talking about yellow-skinned people, or whether you're talking about brown-skinned people, or whether you're talking about white, or whether you're talking about black, the Bible doesn't talk about races. The Bible talks about families. And so the Ethiopians were from the family of Cush. In fact, I believe in my old King Jimmy, it was a Cushite woman. I can't remember what the translation was, but it came from the family came from a guy named Cush. And so you don't see races in the Bible. We all come from the same group of people. Everybody got off the ark, and so we're all descended ultimately from Noah and his family. Ham and Shem and Japheth, and then the different skin tones and the different characteristics came about when people got separated, and that just comes through genetics. They got separated in small people groups and that kind of stuff, and all the genetic diversity comes out. We all come from the same group of people, and so anything that separates groups of people is something that is biblically unsound. It is not something that we as Christians are supposed to be into. And this is one of the things. My parents had some real issues as far as raising me and stuff, but this is one of the things that my mom did right. I was never raised in a racist home. and when I started going to school, I was involved in sports, and I was in Southern California, and so we had black kids in our school, and we had brown kids in our school, and we had white kids in our school, and Asian kids in our school, and that kind of stuff. And I did sports with all these guys, and you didn't have the junk going on that you see in some of the issues that you have going on right now. It was unfamiliar to me when I played sports. I mean, we're all in the locker room together, and taking showers and all that kind of stuff. And these guys are just my friends, and so the whole attitude where it's white and black and all that kind of stuff, it's foreign to me. I don't like it. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's something that should be happening. And it was never the kind of situation where like the black kids in our school, that we ever had to stand up and protect them or even talk about issues, because people just did not do that. You didn't go there with the guys. And I was around some guys at some points that had attitudes towards my friends, and it was never just my black friends or my brown friends, but they had attitudes towards my friends, and that stuff got slammed. And some of the junk that you see with the racist attitudes go in both directions. It wouldn't have been put up with in the locker rooms where I was at, and so it's just a bummer that it's kind of come full circle, and we're back to this whole thing again. We all, like I said, we all came off the same boat, and we're brothers and sisters in the as far as the family of humanity goes. And Satan would just love to take the differences and split us up, and that's obviously what's taken place. So
you think it's more of a spiritual issue, where it's more just about hate? Because that's what I see, is that a lot of these things, they'll scream race, and like you said, it's on both sides. I grew up in working for in the corrections industry, and you have like Aryan Brotherhood, who's white supremacists, and all these guys. They use the Bible, to promote their Aryan Brotherhood, and it's funny because they have no idea. They think that Jesus is like this blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy that they saw in a painting, because they've never read their Bible,
right? Yeah.
And they have no idea that he's like a Middle Eastern Hebrew Jew, and probably not even a white guy,
right,
but they claim that that's the pure race. So you have that, and there was those little pockets of stuff going on in America, and then you have the other side. And no matter what it is, I look at the issue and they say that's racist, and it has nothing to do with the issue. It's just people hating on each other.
Yeah. I'm not a big conspiracy guy, except for there's a big conspiracy. And the big conspiracy is Satan gets behind anything that he can, and he's an opportunist, and he uses anything that he can to drive people apart and just wreck anything that approaches what God desires for humanity. And it's again, it's just an awful thing, and we're not to be involved in it. And so I just think that a lot of this stuff is just junk. Yeah. So
as a Christian, do you get into it at all, or what would your approach be? Like for instance, the hot topic issues like white privilege and things like that. Do you even go in and try and wrestle someone in that argument, or what do you do as you go onto spiritual truth, morality issues?
I can't remember if we talked about this. I was watching, somebody popped something up on my Facebook page. It was a woke people video, and it was this whole thing with white privilege, and the way that it was being illustrated was in a race. Did I talk about this before?
With me?
Yeah.
I was in passing. Ben Shapiro got brought up, but that was about it.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's this whole illustration where they take a whole group of people, gamut of humanity, and so you had white people and black people and Asians and brown people and that kind of stuff, and so they're going to race for $100, and the guy goes, well, before we start racing, this is what I want to do. I'm going to give you a list of things, and if this fits you, then you need to take 2 steps forward. And the first thing that he came up with was, if you grew up in a home with both a mother and a father in it, take 2 steps forward. And then if you had a home where you had a father figure in the home, take another 2 steps forward. And if you never had to worry about paying your phone bill, take 2 steps forward. And if you never had to help out with the bills, take 2 steps forward. And he goes through this whole, if you went to college and it was paid for not by your athletic ability, but by somebody else, take 2 steps forward. And he did this whole thing, and what you had was a situation where you had a bunch of people who were way out of ahead before the race started, and many of the people that were back at the finish line, the vast majority of them were black, and there were some white people, and it was a real quick thing, and so I didn't see the whole thing, but.
Not to cut you off, but my wife said she remembered you talking about that, so we probably did talk about it last year.
Okay,
just to let you know.
So anyway, at the end of this whole thing, it was designed to show white privilege or privilege just in general. The guy had him turn around and look back at the starting line and say, you're out here in front, and it's through nothing that you did yourself, and that's what privilege is. And no, that's what a normal family is, and that's the problem. That's what a normal family is. You have a normal family where you have the mom and dad in the home raising the kids, doing their best to make their life better than what theirs was. And what you're going to get is you're going to get out ahead. And the thing that really struck me about that whole video was I would have been standing back on the starting line with these guys. And it's not about race. It's about how you live your life. That's what it's about. And so when I look at many situations that you have going on in the United States, frankly around the world, I just went to Uganda, and some of the ways that they handle their social structure in Uganda is pretty good. They have a kind of a tribal structure. So they have the Ugandan government, but then they've got like a family tribal structure in each one of these towns. And basically, if somebody gets out of line, they go before the tribe. The tribal elders deal with the whole thing. They make them take care of their families, and if they don't want to take care of the families, the tribal elders come up with a punishment, and they recommend that to the government of Uganda, and that's when the guy goes to jail, and that's how long he goes for.
That's cool.
It was just like,
how many problems would that fix in America?
Oh
right there?
My goodness! I was sitting there listening to the guy. I was like, we need that in America.
Yeah.
Because we're too split off from each other, and what we need is we need families that act like families. And I'm not minimizing the whole thing that black people went through in the 1800s and even in the early 1900s up until the time of the civil rights protests and all that kind of stuff. It's just awful. But that's not what's going on right now. And so we just had a black president. And so, I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. I didn't like him all that much, but, I thought it was pretty cool that we had a black president. Not because he was black, but because of the things that he came up with.
Policies.
Yeah, the policies and stuff. I didn't agree with him. But he did tell the truth, and he did what he said he was going to do. And that's unusual for a politician. So, got to commend him on that whole thing. In any case, what we need to do is we need to be coming together. We need to be loving each other, and we need to be kind to each other. And if that kind of stuff was going on, then most of this junk would be gone. And I don't know how to get there without Jesus.
Yep.
And so, when I'm looking at people who are around me, it's not that I don't see color, because people have different colors. And so, I've got black friends, and I've got white friends, and I've got yellow friends, and I've got brown friends, and if there were green people, I'd have green friends. And we all love Jesus, and we all follow the Lord, and that's the way that it's supposed to go. And if I saw anybody downing one of my friends who had black skin, I'd be all up in somebody's face. And if I saw somebody doing that with one of my friends who has brown skin, same thing. They're my brother, and that's the way that it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So family. This is family. So
cool.